Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. That is Jack. I am Connor. This is the Footy 5. We're going to talk a little bit about Ole Gunnar Solskjær. Should he stay? Should he go? You want him in? You want him out? He's okay. He's okay.
Way to state your opinion right off the bat. No need for debate.
Interim manager December of 18 following the firing of Jose Mourinho. They beat PSG and he was appointed full-time manager to end of March in 19. So 12 months left on his contract. Second place in the Premier League. Good amount of progress. But then they lose to Villarreal on pens in the final of the Europa League. Does that wash away all of that progress? Is he making progress?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different sides. Even in the Manchester United fan base, there's a ton of division because there's almost a divide in terms of who you hate more, the Glazers or Ole Gunnar Solskjær. Ole Gunnar Solskjær, because
Glazers.
The people who defend Ole Gunnar Solskjær argue that the people up top need to go before, like doesn't matter if an apple is rotten, if the barrel is rotten. It's like doesn't matter if he's a bad manager. Almost a case of we recognize his flaws, because let's address his flaws. I mean, you look at these numbers. They score more goals. They're much more fun to watch than Louis van Gaal's reign and the latter stages of Mourinho. But they're leakier at the back, and even after spending a good deal of money on Harry Maguire, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, they're still not defensively solid. And you question what their actual style of play is, what they seek
the plan?
to do.
Yeah,
I think what Manchester United want to do, what Ole Gunnar Solskjær could do very well, is a side that sits back, low block, hits sides on the break. But that's a it has a battle with the reputation of Manchester United, which is not a hoof-it-long football club. Their players, it's also tough that they've made odd recruitments, like players like Donny van de Beek and Bruno Fernandes are not built for what they tried to get in Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Harry Maguire, which are players who are good defensively but a bit more limited in some certain areas.
I mean, you look at their transfer business under Solskjaer. Maguire, Wan-Bissaka, okay, defensive. Bruno Fernandes, to your point, doesn't fit the mold. Donny van de Beek, Amad Diallo, Daniel James, Alex Telles, Odion Igalo, Facundo Palestri. Right? That's
Cavani,
9 players.
Cavani in there as well.
9 players. That was a loan. And then
that's the sign him on a free. On a free. Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, it was a free. But I mean, those are your expenditures. Doesn't include any additional loans that were done. 6 of those players are on the offensive side. 3 of them are defensive, right? If I'm counting correct, you had Telles, Wan-Bissaka, and Harry Maguire. Otherwise, it's all center forwards and wingers and midfield.
And to his credit, they have scored more goals. I mean, in the Premier League this season, only outscored by Manchester City. And defensively, I mean, 44 goals conceded. Interestingly, trumps Liverpool's 42 conceded. They conceded 2 more than a side that had their arguably 5th and 6th choice
center back pairing.
So, I mean, look, a lot of that is down to a 6-1 loss early on in the season. They were never really in a title race. They bottled the Europa League final, had 60% possession, and could not create anything out of it. I mean, they had, I think, 1 XG. So did Villarreal, who just sat back and hit them on the break. Because Manchester United, they just struggled tactically. And I think there's a nice middle ground that I sit in, which is that Solskjaer has done actually a very good job in improving the atmosphere around the club. Mourinho is more of a winner than Solskjaer is, and I think he could take this squad further than Solskjaer would. But it'd be a case of you're almost selling your soul to the devil. And I think if Solskjaer was to leave, he would leave the club, the side, in a much better spot.
Than Mourinho did?
Than Mourinho did, yes.
Because
Mourinho
left a toxic waste dump behind him.
But I think it may be I think I go back and forth on if he should have one more window or if he should go now. I think it makes sense because he has 12 months left on his contract. Don't renew his contract, especially after the loss of Villarreal.
Maybe give him an extra year.
I don't think you do that. I don't think you do that because I think you have to I think giving him one more window and seeing if he can get it right. I think if they are a few signings away from really looking good because their midfield.
But it's a ton of money.
That's always been Manchester United.
But I mean, but right now they don't necessarily have. I mean, you're talking about Varane.
I
right?
think it's tough to blame the recruitment failures on Ole Gunnar Solskjær. Maguire for 80 million was never going to be a good transfer. Wan-Bissaka for 50 million was never going to be a good transfer. Those were just bad signings on a dollar for player value. It doesn't matter how good a manager Solskjær was.
50 million also.
It doesn't matter if
Van de Beek was 35 million.
Yeah, I mean the only way that they would have turned out good is if for Harry Maguire they went into the Football Manager in-game editors and just gave him about 5 extra pace points because I think that there's been a serious divide in what the footballing identity is and who they wanted to acquire. I still don't understand the Maguire transfer to this day. It does not fit Manchester United because his biggest flaw, his only flaw in my opinion, is his pace. And that is a near-on game-breaking pace.
But it limits what you can do in front of him. You have to play a double pivot so that somebody can give him cover and run like hell.
Yes, and playing a high line always runs the risk of him being burnt behind him. It just
he needs pace alongside him.
Think of players who you would buy for that figure. Virgil van Dijk, rapid, can play in a high line, can play as a center back who has to have the ball a lot at his feet. Maguire is great with the ball at his feet, one of the best in the league.
Ruben Diaz.
But again, Manchester United, what they should have done, they should have given Jose Mourinho Maguire, because Mourinho doesn't care about Manchester United should look beautiful. They should bring in academy players. He cares about getting results. And Mourinho with Maguire would have been tremendous. Would have been tremendous because he has sitting deeper. Maguire is unbelievable because he's great in the air, great passer, reads the game very well.
Yeah.
But he just, if he needs to beat a guy for pace, he struggles there. So there was a divide in what Solskjær wants the club to do in terms of how they play football and who the club was going to sign. Now, Woodward's leaving at the end of this calendar year, so that's going to open up new potentials for different voices there. I think it's a case of if you can get a Conte, which he's available right now, but not for much longer, most likely. I think Spurs are going to snatch him up. He's the kind of guy who I think could take this side and really push him forward. I think he could sign. Issue would be is, what do Manchester United want? Do you want a long-term stability? Because I don't think you're ever going to get anything like Sir Alex Ferguson. Or do you want to win trophies on a short-term basis? All you got to do is look at Thomas Tuchel. 6 months at Chelsea, not even 5 months at Chelsea, and he won the biggest trophy in world football. I think signing Conte would be a tremendous idea because the core of your side is not going to deteriorate even if he has only a 2-year stint where he wins a title, wins another cup competition. So I think they should go for Conte, go for a winner and more short term because Solskjær, the biggest pro of Solskjær is he can build a culture really, really well. He can build a side that has a harmonious dressing room. I think he can do that very well. Issue is
results.
He I don't want to call him a loser because I'm sitting in my basement talking about him, and he's actually managing Manchester United, but he struggles to win big matches. He wins the occasional one-off against Manchester City. I don't think he's beat Liverpool yet. Or he did in the FA Cup, excuse me. So he has his moments, but overall, I think he's very limited as a manager tactically.
I'm saying. He doesn't have that magnetic personality. He's okay. I don't know what the locker room atmosphere is like, and maybe he is a catalyzing force in there. I don't know, right? But are they going to back that guy with $300 million in transfers? If you go after Varane, if you go after Declan Rice, and if you go after Jadon Sancho, that's $300 million. Maybe you can go after the rumor of Pau Torres from Villarreal, who, for a quarter of the price that you probably would have to pay, and he's 4 years younger.
Yeah.
Right? But they have to then sell some stuff. Lingard is still a Man United player. Probably sell him, probably sell De Gea. But are you going to back that guy with that kind of money?
I don't know. I mean, I think with 12 months left on his contract, it's not a terrible financial decision to keep him around. But because here's the thing. If they did that summer, Varane, Rice, and Sancho, 12 months from now,
that's an unbelievable window.
You can't write off an entire season. But even if Solskjær finishes third place, doesn't win a trophy, keeps them mediocre for Manchester United standards. I know that a lot of fans of lower league sides complain that third place, second place, you should appreciate what you have. That side is not going to deteriorate next season. I think Rashford, Greenwood, even Wan-Bissaka, maybe even Shaw. I think Rice and Sancho, if they signed him, definitely, even Varane, would all continue trending upwards. Henderson and net. So if they gave Solskjaer one more year to keep this squad, I guess, together, avoid the falling outs of Jose Mourinho, maybe he wins you a trophy. It's just my issue with Ole is that I don't think the board of Manchester United is ever going to have the stones to fire him, because you can argue progress, no progress. You've gone from 6th when he took over halfway through a season to 3rd last season, scraping into the Champions League, to a very comfortable 2nd place this season, not chasing for the title, but also not worried about qualification. You threw away, you've lost 5 semifinals under him now. You got to a final finally, and so there were some bad tactical choices. You couldn't break down Villarreal, and you should have done the Tim Krul Cillessen swap. You should have brought in Henderson for De Gea, because De Gea cannot save a penalty. It's harsh to, obviously, hindsight's 50-50, but I think he's limited as a manager tactically. I think there's a lack of unity in what his side wants to do. Do they want to be a counterattacking side? Do they want to be a dominating the possession?
Or maybe that's good. He's just adapting his tactics to whatever makes sense.
But the issue is, then you sign a guy like Maguire, who fits one but not the other,
right, and
you spend a lot of money on that, then it's tough, because there's not a lot of unity.
He was signed like 6 days after he took over. Granted, he was in that conversation for the previous 3 months.
But I think it's also, think about like what Liverpool do. Every player they sign is going to fit a specific goal. Jota to back up the front 3, high energy pressing forward. Rafinha, if they sign him, same deal. Konate as a center back, signed to be an athletic partner for Van Dijk to play in a high line. They would never sign a Maguire, because Maguire can't do what their side wants to do. What does Manchester United want to do? And the issue is, under Ole Gunnar Solskjær, you have no idea.
There's no. It's a collection of talent without a strong identity or system in place.
And the credit to Ole is that he has improved the talent on that side. Rashford is better. Greenwood is better. He made Bruno Fernandes a very borderline world-class player, probably actually very comfortably a world-class player in my eyes. And he's put the side with a lot of solid foundation in place. I just think for Manchester United, now is the time to move him on for a Conte, a guy who can take this side and push over the finish line. I liken it a lot to Pochettino at Spurs. He built a tremendous
you put Pochettino
squad
there. What did he do for you? No,
he can't. He is the guy who can build. He's not the guy to finish off the job. I hated his hire at PSG, because he's not going to win you a knockout tie. He's going to build you a club from almost nothing to having some real great assets. Harry Kane for Spurs. And same thing for Solskjaer, is Rashford and Greenwood are two of they're very young, very good players from the academy that are worth hundreds of millions of pounds now, that you can have for the next decade plus.
Well, I mean, you look at the other.
They will be the positives from his reign, Rashford
for sure,
and Greenwood.
Yeah, I think, if you look at City, Guardiola, top class manager. Liverpool, Klopp, top class manager. Chelsea, Tuchel's first European title, really good manager, right? He's won a lot of domestic cups, a couple of titles, but that was at PSG and Dortmund, right? Arsenal, question mark.
I think it's a firm no in my eyes. Arteta's a bit young.
He and I think Solskjaer are kind of in the same club, right?
But the issue is, I take exception to that. I'm fairly certain on this fact. Ole Gunnar Solskjær started his managerial career before Pep Guardiola. He started in Norway, yes, but he's been doing this for a long time. So I hate the arguments, he's still learning. He's been doing this for over 13, 14 years now. He should not be learning on the job. It's not an internship opportunity. It's Manchester United Football Club. And if he wasn't Ole Gunnar Solskjær, who scored the winner in the 1999 Champions League final, he's not having this discussion. When you say none after 2.5 years, when you fired Van Gaal right after winning a cup, when you fired Mourinho, one of the best managers of all time.
Yeah, Mourinho's done though. His style, I don't think you can.
But I don't know if you can say Mourinho's done when he had won that so recently, and Ole Gunnar Solskjær has won nothing in his career. I think, and the last thing I'll say is, you look at sides like Manchester City with Guardiola, Tuchel, Klopp. Would other sides, top 5 sides in England or across Europe, would they take those managers? 100%.
In a heartbeat.
I mean,
would anybody take Solskjaer?
Klopp is rumored to go to Madrid, to Barcelona every time there's an opening. Guardiola always linked to jobs elsewhere. Zidane leaving Madrid is going to go to Juventus possibly. Pirlo leaving Juventus is not going to go anywhere because he still needs to learn.
That's what I'm saying. Those three, they're in the same club. Right?
Solskjaer is a club legend of Manchester United, but he could not get a job of this caliber anywhere with his CV. and with his ability as a manager. And that's a problem for Manchester United. You have to take off the nostalgia. You have to take off the blindness that you get from how much you love him as a player and recognize that as a manager, he's limited. Yeah. He's built you a good squad to move forward with, but don't make the mistake of keeping him around too long. You have to move him on before it gets too late. I think 12 months is the most I would allow him, and so for that reason, I wouldn't give him an extension. I just kind of say,
see what he does. But you're putting $300 million behind that guy. I don't know if.
I think if $300 million is Rice, Sancho, and Varane, that's long.
You're burning a year. You're burning a year if you're going to do that, and you don't have faith in him.
But I think Solskjaer will never make this squad turn downwards. It'll only plateau. I don't think he can turn it downwards. That's why I think 12 months is not a bad idea with Solskjaer.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Anyhow,
it's a tough decision. I mean, we're back and forth on if he should go, should he stay. I just think that.
But if you're going to plow $300 million into those three players, you've got to have a manager that you can believe can turn that into a title or three, and trophies. And if you don't believe in him that strongly,
I think United do believe in him, though. I think they do. Maybe it is a bit of blindness because of his history at the club, but I think that they wouldn't have spent as much.
But Woodward's got he doesn't care.
I think he does. I think he has a bit of self-respect. He's not going to walk out like.
Right, but he's not going to get fired.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my point.
What
right?
are you going to do?
Like anybody that's in a decision-making capacity, they're going to force his hand because he's not going to fire him, right? Because what does it matter to him?
I just think that they won't fire him. They'll just let him walk after his contract's over. I think that's just what's going to happen most likely is that once his contract runs out, he'll leave.
Going to hope everybody forgets. What happened to that guy? He's gone.
It's like in Football Manager. You have a running week-on-week salary, and it's just going to be like, he's just going to show up without a contract.
We fixed the glitch. That'll do it for our look at should they keep Ole Gunnar Solskjær.
We didn't answer the question. In or out for you?
If you're plowing $300 million, you get somebody you think can win. I think you got to take him out.
So Ole out. I'd say Ole in for 12 more months. Even if they make that kind of investment, I think give him 12 more months. He could still change my mind if he wins a title or wins a cup.
Yeah, I guess. He's had the same talent.
But then the question is, if he wins like the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup, is that enough to keep him around? I don't think it is. No,
it's got to be continental competition.
I think if he's got a very tough first few months, if he gets off to a poor start in the Premier League like last season, I think the patience might be a bit thinner. So
we shall see. Let us know what you think in the comments, Jack, Conrad. This has been the Footy 5. Please do subscribe. It's free. Sometimes we know what we're talking about. Look for us on the Twitter at the Footy 5. Take care now.